What's up, guys? Welcome to the Crypto Savvy channel. I'm Craig, and we are going to go over the charts, starting out with the Dow Jones, moving on to the DXY, then of course Bitcoin. We'll take a quick look at Ethereum, Litecoin, XRP, and then gold and silver at the end. I also want to talk about at the end a little bit about how you can look for macro bottoms in macro time frames like the weekly. So let's get into it, but before we do, make sure you guys take a second out, scroll down, smash those thumbs up, leave your comments down below, let me know what you think of this video. Also, share the video if you would, subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure you tick those notification bells to get you notified when I post new videos. All right, so taking a look at we've been watching the Dow Jones within this channel. As you guys know, last week I moved the channel a little bit to make alternate touches. We have a touch here on the bottom, touch up here on the top, another touch on the bottom, and then the top. That makes it a pretty valid channel in my opinion. If we are going to break up and it's going to get bullish, obviously we have to break this high here at about 34.3. Actually, it'd be a little bit lower than that. I would have to see a break of about 34.150 on the Dow before it would validate that there could be more upside. As of right now, I'm looking for more downside. As you guys know, I'm looking for much lower lows, and I believe we could go even lower than this, and I'll show you why in the next chart. But as of right now, the Dow is breaking back below our old resistance, and we thought if it was going to remain bullish, it has to maintain this 33,271 to remain bullish. But if we start closing, so if we open and close tomorrow's daily below 33,271, that's pretty bearish. I look for the 31,350 range and may get a bounce there for a while within the next few weeks. Well, let's say the next few months, we could see us down into the 28,000 range. But as of right now, this is playing out beautifully. We had this high over here, higher high in the RSI, lower high in the price action. That is hidden bearish divergence in a downtrend. Hidden divergence is a continuation of the trend. As you guys know, we like to watch market structures here. And this is an interesting one this is on the right side. This is the Dow weekly from the Great Depression, 1929. You can see what happened here. You can see the similarities in the chart right here. We made higher highs and then lower lows right afterwards, just like we did here. So something to be cautious, be aware of that. You know, this was a huge 100-year rally. Could it be a 100-year cycle? And we just have a major crash coming. And that's what I talk about by the biggest money grab in history. If you guys watch the channel for any length of time, you know I've been talking about this for a long time. May or may not happen, but it's definitely something we need to keep in mind. Over here, when this happened, nobody thought it was going to continue. Just like now, everybody thought the markets would just rocket back up. As you can see, we had some bounces, but never really recovered. Does it have to go as low as it did over here? It does not have to, but it is something to consider. But let's look at the DXY. DXY is definitely still pumping. If we break this high of 109.29, my next target's 102.12. If that breaks, it is crazy to the moon. But eventually here, we'll have to have some kind of pullback looking at the RSI. But I have explained many times before that the RSI, you really can't rely on it on the DXY, because the DXY itself, the index, is not traded. Of course, the dollar's traded, all the currencies traded against the dollar are traded, but the DXY itself is not traded. So therefore, that does not validate the RSI as in looking for divergence or anything like that. So I've explained that in the past. I don't believe that you can do that. Just my experience in the markets. Now let's take a look at the weekly to get a bigger picture of the DXY. If I'm correct and we do have a major market crash, then we'd start looking for around 122 in the DXY. Now guys, this could take years to play out. As you can see, this is the weekly chart. We did break out of this downward trending, you could call it a wedge or triangle, whichever, but we did break up out of that. That is very bullish. The measured move of this, if it was to play out like this, is around 172. Like I said, could take, multiple years before we get there, maybe a couple of years if that does happen. But something to keep an eye on. But 122 is where I'd look for the first resistance. That's around this old top over here. We'll see what happens there. That may be when we get our relief rally for Bitcoin in that, maybe get a pullback here towards the end of the year, and then come back up to continue to the upside for the DXY, downside for Bitcoin in the beginning of next year. Now let's take a look at our resistance levels. The 55 EMA on the monthly has still remained resistance here at 24.5. We are playing on that trend line on the monthly. Let's see where this month closes, but we are back below it as of right now. Let's take a look at the weekly. Same thing with the weekly. We're below all the EMAs. We had our weekly sell signal right over here when all the EMAs crossed. We also were pointing out back in the monthly back here, the 3 black crows, which are 3 red large bodied candles in a row. That was our continuation of the downside after that. Same thing here. We got 3 black crows again and a little upside, not much, but still looking pretty bearish in the long term. Now, I did a members video and we talked about this last, when was that? That was Saturday morning. We did a members video talking about this whole structure on the weekly here. And as you can see, we've talked about this, the measured move of this rising channel down got us our target right here of 25.5. And then when this broke, and the reason I go over this over and over, a lot of new people join, but this is just to show you how you keep track of what's going on in the market. On the bigger time frames, there is no reversal signal. I know a lot of people are talking about the hash ribbons, blah, blah, blah. But every time, up here, I don't remember which, but they were bringing up something. So, the bulls will always try to find something and it'll always change. It'll be a new indicator that's never been wrong, just to be proven wrong. It happens over and over again in this market in both directions, I might add. So anyways, then when we broke this trend line, we got our target here of 17.5. And if we break here, and right now it's about the 20,600 level. We talked about if that breaks, the most likely we are continuing to the downside. And the measured move of that would be about 8,200, somewhere in that range. Now, as you can see here, it took a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks before hitting them targets. Not to say it's going to hit 82 in 2 to 3 weeks. This could take more. It doesn't have to play out like the last couple breaks. But if we do break this line, that is pretty bearish. Our actual first target is going to be the measured move. And we're going to move it now because we are on this weekly. So if this week we are breaking that 26 or 20,600 range, my target's going to be around 14.5. Yep, right about 14.5. I would expect a bounce here. If that does not break, then obviously we continue here. But 14.5 would be our first stopping point. I know 17.5 was the low. People expect it to be a double bottom, but they expected it right here and right here, which we'll talk about in the 4-hour time frame after this. But I would be looking for a target if, again, we have to confirm a break at 20,600 first. If we confirm a break of that, then we're looking, and then that's on the weekly, then we're looking at that 14.5 range. If we cannot break that, then there is a possibility we come up and test the top of this one more time around that 28,000 range. But again, I'm watching this down here. On the weekly, our first major resistance is going to be the 8 EMA, which is around 22.8. So if we can't get above 22.8, most likely I see us breaking this 20,600 heading to the 14.5. And then we have much lower lows after that too. We've talked about plenty of times in the past, and I'll show you real quick just being on the, actually we'll look at that on the daily. But first, looking at the Amazon compared to Bitcoin chart, a lot of people have been commenting, Bitcoin moves a lot faster than traditional markets. Well, these are both weekly charts, right? So it didn't move any faster than Amazon moved over here. It's all playing out almost identically, guys. I looked for a false bottom somewhere in the $7,000 to $8,000 range. Sometime towards the end of this year, we should get a little bull rally afterwards, getting everyone bullish again. And I've showed you, let me move this over so you can see it. This trend line here on the weekly, once that broke, that was our little fourth wave. And this is not considered Elliott wave. This is a bubble pop pattern. That's why they come in 5 waves just like this. And I've showed it in the Sony. I've showed it in Nintendo. And there are plenty more. I'm not going to dig through all. Do your own research and check them out. But this is how bubbles pop, right? So then we get our first big wave down to 3, which, over here it took about from June 2000 to March 2001, so almost a year, right? So this top was on 2 was March 22, and March 23 would be the bottom here. I don't think that's going to take exactly that long. I'm looking for this probably in November or so, and then everybody will think it's a 4-year cycle. That was the bottom. Hurrah, here we go. And I think it'll just be a small rally, which will look big at the time. Everybody will zoom into smaller time frames, but we're going to keep an eye on this chart here. Once we hit this, may get a rally up to that, 11 to 14,000 range, maybe, before coming back down for our ultimate low in 2023. If this plays out like I believe it too, I do believe it's a good possibility. You can see in this weekly trend line on the RSI when it broke here, that was the bounce. So it broke out. I'm sure everyone got extremely bullish right here because it broke that trend line in the RSI, only to come back down and test it for a lower low, and that being the actual bottom. At the end of the video, we'll take a look at this weekly chart on Amazon and show you what the bottom actually looked like in the weekly, right, compared to what Bitcoin's doing. So if that does happen, our third wave right here, once that ends, we begin our fourth. We break this trend line. Same thing. Come back down for a retest at a lower low before hitting the real bottom. Now, does that mean it moonshots straight up like everybody thinks? That's just going to new all-time highs in 2025. I highly doubt it, and I'll show you why in the end of the video. Not saying, a lot of people think I hate Bitcoin and blah. I do not hate Bitcoin. I am looking at the charts and telling you how charts usually play out. Markets often react to patterns, and this is just a pattern that seems to be playing out perfectly. If it breaks, then we start to look for possibility of upsides or where it may head from there. But as of right now, there's no reason to change anything because it does seem to be playing out almost identically to the T. Even if you look at the MACD resembles almost identically also. So this is a long-term chart. We went over that in last video. I'm not going to bore you with it right now. I'm going to try to move on. If you guys haven't or are interested in trading, check out Prime XBT, by far my favorite exchange. They don't trade against you like the other exchanges because they don't use their own funds. They are an actual broker. You could trade Dow, Forex, gold, silver, oil, S&P, everything all from one exchange. Definitely check them out if you haven't already. You can use my promo code SAVVY50. That will get you up to a $7,000 bonus. SAVVY25 will get you 25% off your fees. Now, before we go into the smaller time frames in Bitcoin and then move on to Litecoin, Ethereum, XRP, gold, and silver, make sure you scroll down, smash those likes, and I'm going to show you my wife's webpage, Ink Your Image. Definitely check it out. She has a lot of cool stuff on here. She's actually gotten pretty big with the Bronco community also, but she does have a Bitcoin section. On any of the stuff you see on her page, that link is also down below. Make sure you check it out. Any of the stuff you see on this page, she can literally put anything you want on it, as long as it's not trademarked, obviously. But she does it all herself. It's not, she doesn't buy it over here and sell it over here. She puts all this stuff on herself. So definitely check it out. All right. That's just another way to help support the channel, by the way. So looking at the daily, what were our targets here? The target of this rising broadening wedge breaking was right down here at that 24.3. We told you if we broke below that, that would become major resistance, which it has. Now, this is just one idea I have of how this could possibly play out, right? We come down, get a bounce off that 17.7. That's if we get down to this level and get a bounce. It could look something like this to get us down to our first low at 76 to 8,600, somewhere in that range, before bouncing up, getting that fake rally and down, if the Amazon chart plays out like it has been. But you can see here, we got rejected right where we expected to get rejected. I had this down arrow here for the last few weeks, and it does seem to be playing out so far. We do have room for more upside as a possibility. So it doesn't mean we go straight down from here, although we could. Again, we're going to take a look at the smaller time frames. But so far, in the macro, there is nothing bullish about this. We have some other targets that we used right here, right? So let's do this. From the break of the trend, put this on here. Let's get that. So from the break of the trend, which is this blue line here, we bring that down, looking at this whole thing as a bear flag. That gets us down to approximately 76 to 7,700 range for that bounce. So between 7 and 8,000, somewhere in that range. Maybe it'll hit that 82 and get the bounce there. But again, that's, months away. So if that does play out in the daily, like I said, then I would be expecting one more lower low. Now, if we take this bear flag pull from the very top, and not from the break, but from the very top, what is the absolute worst case scenario? We bring that down to the bottom. And if it does get down there, it could be much worse, but that would be around $1,300. I'm not saying it's going to go there, but it is definitely a possibility, something to be aware of. Bitcoin always does what people says it'll never do. So keep that in mind. All right, let's take a look at, and sorry, I apologize for the late video today. I had to go get some tests run, some blood work done. So apparently my family has a high cholesterol history and my cholesterol was through the roof. They're trying to prescribe me medication, but I am trying to go natural and see if I can get it down myself. If you have any suggestions for that, leave it down below, other than diet and exercise. But anyways, let's take a look here at what we've been talking about. These blue lines are the prior lows, right? This one was 32.9. Everybody swore it was the bottom. It would bounce there, never go below. And it blew right through, right? We never came back up to retest that line. We've talked about this for weeks and weeks and weeks. The next low, which would never break, 24.4 or 25.4, 25.5, whatever. Draw the blue line across, and we talked about that last week, it not breaking above that, which it did not. Now, when does the mood change and we start looking for 28? That's if we pass 25,331, which we have not done yet. Let me get this off of here right now. So we still have that possibility. If we do continue a bounce from here and come up, it could be a long, slow run up to that 28, or, quickly pop up to it. But 28 is still the limit I see it going if it crosses that 25,333, which it has not yet been able to do, just like last time over here, right? People said this was an absolute bottom. It blew right through. Now our absolute bottom is 17.6. I do believe once we get down to this level, we'll blow right through, going to that 14.5. Our RSI, you can see, has reset big time. You see how much it's moved here. And if we look right here, has not moved much in the price action. It looks to me to be resetting for more downside. Does that mean we cannot go further up? Let's look at where we're at. Where we're at now is we are playing with the 8 EMA on the 4-hour. Our next rejection level would be 21.4. Get above that and hold support. Our next level, just like it was here, our 21 EMA would be the next level of resistance, about 21.6. Now, if it's able to break above that, get support, then we start looking for the 55 EMA, which will be around that 22.1 area, which was our target over here when we were looking at this as inverse head and shoulders, 22.1. So that's a big area if we're able to get up there. And that would give the 55 EMA, the yellow line right here, it would give it time to come down a little bit. So that is still a possibility. But remember, a break of this bottom trend line, which is drawn off of these wicks here, right? A break of that with an open and a close of 1 4-hour candle below that, I think that will be a confirmation of the break. Then we can start looking for that 17.6. And if that breaks to 14.5. Yeah, that is what I'm seeing right now, guys. So let's see where we're at here. Yeah, and if you guys are familiar with TA, you'll know that every time we test a support level like this many times, eventually this is going to break. It's like hitting something with a hammer over and over. Eventually it's going to break down. We'll see what happens here, but it is looking pretty bearish. And actually, if you look at my last video, I talked about us coming down, bouncing around here for a while before breaking, and that's exactly what seems to be happening so far. All right, Ethereum, same thing. This chart's about a year old, guys. At the break of this, we had the target of 1919, and much like the 23 or what was it, 23.5 or whatever of Bitcoin, That being the target, once we break below that, becomes heavy resistance, which happened here. Now, if we do continue down from here, I see us maybe getting support around this 12,000 to 1250 range. If it does break below that, test it for resistance. We're coming back down to test these levels here. And again, just like the lows over here on Ethereum that everyone thought was the bottom, once you break through that, it's pretty quick and hard. I think the same thing will probably happen over here. Now, let's take a look at Litecoin. Same thing. This chart's about a year old. Our first target off of here, the break here was 24.5. I still think we're headed down to that range. We also had these resistance levels at 68.31. And guys, I have not changed these charts. So if we did get a boost up, get back above the EMAs, blow through the 68.31, 80 is our limit there because that's where the 200 EMA will be on the daily. But either way, still nothing in the macro on any of these charts showing bullishness. Same thing with XRP. This was our long-term chart. This one's about a year old too. We called these bottoms over here, called all these dips. I still think we come down and retest this trend line again at the bottom, which is around 30 cents, a little over 30 cents. We break that, and then we're looking for the 17 to 18 cent range. And if we are in a long-term bear market, like I believe we may be, could go much lower. Now, for the long-term, before we go into gold and silver, this is the long-term analysis of how to look for bottoms. As you can see, the bottoms, it don't just shoot straight up and go to the moon. And again, just because it's Bitcoin doesn't make it any different than any other market. I look at markets as a game. It doesn't matter what company it is, what anything it is. It's a game of money and people moving money around. And the big players often play the same game over and over again. That's why the charts resemble each other. This bottoms in the macro, looking at the weekly like that from a big bubble pops view, like I think Bitcoin is. Again, if we are doing this is about where we're at, somewhere in this range here on Bitcoin. And once it bottomed, it took approximately 2 to 3 years to really confirm a bottom. And if you'll notice how this bottom formed, or what this bottom formed, it formed an inverse head and shoulders at the bottom, which took years in the making. It is the weekly. So for those that are telling you you're going to miss out if you miss the bottom, you know, just be careful. For one, nobody knows, including myself, exactly what the markets are going to do or how they're going to do it. But we take data, we analyze it, we look at what's happened in the markets, not in just Bitcoin. If you look at each cycle, they all look different. People say, well, we're right here on this cycle within the same chart saying it's going to do the same thing, which is highly unlikely. But anyways, and as you guys know, I don't believe in the 4-year cycle. I believe in all markets being in a 4-year election cycle. So anyways, that's what I'm looking at. And how long did it take to break the 10-year or the all-time high? It took 10 years for Amazon. Sony and Nintendo, 15 and 20 years, and they still haven't broken their all-time highs. So it doesn't have to break its all-time high 7 years. It also doesn't have to take, 10 years. It could be like people think, we get some crazy thing happen in the world and Bitcoin goes to the moon, which I think is highly unlikely, but anything's possible. You always got to be ready for anything, right? Now gold, this chart is about a year old also. My target still remains about 1561 on gold. We had been talking about this hidden bearish divergence, lower highs in the price action, higher highs in the RSI, which played out perfectly. And I'm still looking for this target. We could go much lower than that. This could make a big M pattern and really come down hard. We'll see. We'll keep up on it. Make sure you're subscribed. Same thing. We had the hidden bearish divergence here. And these are daily charts on gold and silver. This chart is also about a year old. We had this target since we broke in June of 21 at that 15.5. You can see how the charts play out. When you look at the macro, it'll help you with the micro, because if the macro is in a bear market, look for shorts on big bounces. If the macro is in a bull market, look for longs on short pullbacks. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you're learning something. Thanks for coming around. Thanks for all the new subscribers. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys. Without you guys, I wouldn't even do this, because there'd be no reason to. Hopefully this is helping you. Make sure you smash those likes, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video.